Roman Travis. Magic Talk.
Well, Harold Hillman is a man who loves Boy George, and he's here to talk about how to make a good impression in a job interview. I would say, number one, Harold, would be just to turn up. Maybe don't be stoned. What do you think?
I think that's probably really good advice. I just want to say you made my day in your conversation with Brooks Alexander to learn that Hamilton, the Broadway musical, is now streaming. I have flown back to New York 3 times over the past 3 years to try to see it, and I have not been able to, so thank you.
Oh, did you see Book of Mormon?
I did. I saw it twice. I saw it in New York and in Sydney.
Yeah, well, you see, they couldn't do that these days because so many people would be offended and they'd have to take... Oh, it was so good. I loved it. Being a Catholic, I was laughing myself silly. So let's talk about how to make a good impression. You do get that. It's a cliche, but it's true. You have one chance to make a first impression. Yeah,
it really is. We talked last week about really building your personal and your professional brand, because unemployment is at a record level now because of COVID-19. Many people are out of work and will be going into interview for new roles, and so it's important to be purposeful about it. Before social media, you were asked to fill out an application or send through a resume, and that would be your first gate for the company to invite you in for an interview. But now there are 2 gates to walk through before the interview. The first one is still filling out the application or sending your CV, but now the second gate is your profile on social media, whether that be LinkedIn or Facebook or any other site. And so it's, people will infer a lot about who you are, what you value, how you spend your time, the people you associate with based on what they see on social media. So even before you get to the interview, sometimes your personal brand on social media will determine whether or not you are even invited in for an interview.
Yeah, books have covers for a reason. Don't judge a book by its cover is a stupid saying, isn't it?
It is. It really is. It's just you've got to be a little bit more purposeful around what you present. If you do get invited into an interview, then go into it with meaningful purpose, particularly now because there are hundreds of people, vying for the same role. So, one of the most important things is, present a positive image. That very first impression that you make may very well seal the deal in many respects, Roman, either in a positive way or a negative way. For example, if you show up late or untidy or demonstrate poor manners, those things are often interpreted as a lack of respect. So you don't want to be too casual. You want to be purposeful, to put your best foot forward in an interview. And I would always say to people, if you're debating in your head whether you should say something that might offend someone, then keep it to yourself.
I'm just writing that down. That could be my strapline for working on the radio. Gosh, that's a good thing to remember. What about the old-fashioned wearing a suit and tie? Is that just silly these days?
We're a little bit more casual in New Zealand than perhaps in the States, but my sense over the last decade or so is that, whether it be New Zealand, Australia, or the States, things are becoming a bit more casual, so I think that's fine. But I just think that it's important to show respect in terms of the image that you project when you walk in. And so again, being on time, good manners actually matter. Manners actually matter, and so in terms of just being respectful and those types of things make a big difference in presenting that positive image.
Now, you've got 6 key things, and you've mentioned some of them. What are the other things that we really need to nail?
Show some enthusiasm for the role. And that is, even if you are applying for the job because you really need it, most of us, need a paycheck to make it through the year. But show some enthusiasm for the role. Focus on the opportunity you're moving towards rather than Certainly not highlighting anything that you're running from, but more that this role is really compelling to you. And then I would say match what you have with what they need. And so rather than talking about your skills and talents in the abstract or hypothetical, really hone in on what you see as the requirements around that role and give them specific, details around how you can hit the ground running and will make a difference.
Okay.
I would also say tell relevant stories and give examples of your experience. And so, again, rather than speaking hypothetically about what you can do, based on the job requirements, just think through a few stories or examples to show that you have dealt with similar challenges before. It will make a difference.
Harold, just on that though, you'll often be asked things like, give me an example of, controversy or where you've clashed with someone and you managed. And if you haven't got one, you often feel compelled to make up a story, don't you?
Yeah. And so you're hitting on a key point, which is be authentic in that sense. Most of us have faced into a number of challenging scenarios in working with people, even adversity and things like that. So most of us don't have to reach far to be able to pull an example around where you've learned from, because it is important, I think, in an interview to convey that you have learned from adversity and that you have learned from mistakes that you've made as well.
All right. We are running out of time, but I want you to give me the one chunky monkey piece of advice to remember as a job applicant.
Be confident. Back yourself. Wear your authentic self into the interview. To your point earlier, I would say leave them wanting more of you, not less, and leave them with the impression that they can't say no.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Harold Hillman is an executive coach. He's the managing director of the Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group, and you can find him at sigmoidcurve.com. Get him into your workplace. Seriously, you'll just function at higher level. He's absolutely brilliant.